When it comes to the foundation laying, but ultimately slow beginning of Homestuck's first act, some had an easier time getting through it while others didn't. Some of those same others likely giving up the webcomic as a result. I likely would have fallen into the latter category if not, thankfully, for the blue-hooded boy wielding blustering breezes, bolstering his buddies with bouquets, all while bashing baddies with bludgeoning weapons. John Egbert and his classpact, the Heir of Breath. The Heir is one of the manipulation classes of Homestuck, the passive counterpart to the Witch, and the inverse of the Mage. Heirs manipulate their aspect by inheriting and literally becoming that aspect, like how John becomes Wind to manipulate it. They also seem to be quite strong, like how John can swing around hammers with ease when he originally couldn't, Equius is, well, himself, and Mituna seems quite durable when it comes to his skateboard crashes. An heir should avoid fighting a prince or a bard of the same aspect, since they are both destroyers. Heirs also seem to be guided and protected by their aspect, like how John just knows where to go, and Equius can passively prevent higher beings from spying on him. However, as a downside, heirs can tend to be jerks. For example, John with his general reactions to Dave's sprite by calling him Fake Dave, Equius being controlling of Nepeta, even if he had kind, protective intentions, and Mituna with his volatile nature. Breath is the inverse of blood and has to do with the wind, direction, motion, flexibility, movement, guidance, freedom, and independence. Breath players seem to be guided or advised in some way. John, the Heir of Breath, is just surrounded by others that can offer guidance, like his consorts, friends, and even Vriska, while Tavros, the Page of Breath, also received guidance from Vriska when he was in the game. Breath players also have to deal with trying not to be too airy or apathetic, having just enough breath to have freedom to do what you want, but having enough blood to also stay grounded and keep the bonds you have. Breath players in general tend to whisk around others in what they do. They can also make for good leaders and motivators, albeit unknowingly. Looking at the extended Zodiac, Breath players, whether wanting to or not, tend to leave an impression on others with their expansive and flexible nature, pulling others along into the adventures they take. This leads to heroism as a result, though they seem to underestimate themselves, though not always due to low self-esteem. They just like to do their own thing, which I personally kind of love. At their best, they can be motivated, adaptable, and forward-thinking. At their worst, however, the Breathbound can be volatile, avoidant, and gullible. Before I get into anything else, I need to start off with how John Egbert is my absolute favorite character in all of Homestuck, hands down. Because without John starting off the whole thing, I likely wouldn't be a fan of the webcomic, and, even more likely, this channel wouldn't exist and I wouldn't have you amazing people as my fans. Viewers. Subscribers? Analyzers? Whatever you want to call yourselves. I'm not gonna lie though, possibly the main reason why I love John is because he fights with hammers, and I've had a hyperfixation with hammers for the longest time since, I played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Hell, one of my best friends, and the biggest fan of the channel I might add, gave me a hammer once as a gift. Just wish I had time and a place to practice with it. But yeah, I love John's weapon of choice and I adore his personality. He's a goofy, relatable dude who stays humble and sees himself as a friend, not a leader, to those around him. He'll fight to protect and avenge those he loves, and he's kind of really smart in his own way, having figured out the mechanics of alchemizing without a guide. Maybe not the most perceptive or insightful, but definitely smart. He is the true definition of a hero, not Caliborn or Vriska or Bro's definition, who manages to stay as humble and silly as he is caring and strong. And I love that about him. Also, personal bias, I need to see John get the biggest W in Homestuck squared. I really do. My boy's starving for one. Now, moving on to the class spec of the Heir of Breath, I feel like we've possibly seen the absolute extent of what the class spec can do and what it represents. The Heir of Breath can not only become the air and wind itself to manipulate it, but also freedom, being able to move outside the boundaries of time and even the comic itself. It can create tornadoes powerful enough to drill into the core of a freaking planet, or create wind barriers, like what he did during Collide against the Condes. The winds also passively assist the Heir, scattering their scent so as to keep hunters off their trail. With powers like these, it makes you wonder if Jon could become the perfect offense and defense, becoming a planetary threat of a storm himself that only a prince or lord of breath or even someone else of equal destructive power could hope to harm. As for the retcon powers, though, I'm not sure if an Heir of Breath could normally attain such a thing. It makes you wonder if Jon could cross over into other intellectual properties if he was made aware of them, looking at him going beyond the boundaries of the comic or entering Celeborn's Homestuck dimension. An Heir of Breath could likely be incapable of being captured in the first place, being the inheritor of freedom and movement itself, not even needing to become wind to escape from their bonds. Oh my god, Joy Boy and huge spoilers for One Piece, Gear 5 Luffy might be Heirs of Breath. What better represents freedom and flexibility than a sun god with a body like rubber and low-tier Toon Force powers? Anyway, all of this stuff combined into one class-spec in-character shows how Jon, alongside Vriska and Celeborn with their own class specs, have shown the absolute full, or almost, full capabilities of what this class spec can do, and how he's one of the strongest characters in the series. We see him grow up from some kid who struggled to lift a sledgehammer or fight off orcs, to a slightly older kid given the responsibility of taking on waves of incredibly high-leveled enemies all by himself, again, to, again, an even older kid fighting alongside his friends to defeat a curvaceous sea Hitler capable of destroying planets. Like Celeborn, we see his journey from start to finish to dubiously canon continuation, and he stayed my blue-hooded, hammer-wielding, prank-dealing favorite character, and I'll hopefully never see that change. And I believe that's all I have to say on the matter. If you've enjoyed this video, then please like and share it. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe and leave some suggestions in the comments below. Also, if you prefer June Egbert over Jon, that's valid too. Trans rights. Until I see you in the Page of Blood, I bid you dudes, dudettes, and others adieu. Bye.